This story starts with some creature with lots of feathers, a beak and two wings. It opens its mouth and sticks out its long tongue while hieroglyphics can be seen in the front. There is a gloomy atmosphere all around with many mountains towering over the area. There is some sort of deafening thump that all the birds fly off in different directions from the fright that comes over them. The winged creature seems to be badly wounded. As a large pool of blood spreads around him, he furiously flaps his wings, as he saw some danger in the form of a silhouette in front of him. A man appears in his field of vision, and he looks at the creature in front of him with a cold stare, saddened that the monster has failed to live up to his expectations. The man's hand reaches forward somewhere. He manages the looming purple pentagram in front of him, adding confidently that he wishes for a stronger, much stronger pet for himself. The man seems to be preparing to do the intended thing, but a man in a black cloak appears behind him, bowing and announcing that young Mr. Chu has been brought to the Palace of Nightmares. This seems to be a very important event for Mr. Sia, who, distracted, finally leaves this battle scene with that monster, proclaiming that he had almost completely forgotten about his arrival. The man, turning away, leaves the place with the man who had come, leaving his current and unsuccessful pet, which he said had already left this world with its beak open. On the way appears a huge stone and gloomy palace of nightmares, which without apparent hospitality welcomes new guests, intimidating the atmosphere that melts around this space. If you watch this palace of nightmares from the inside, things don't look so terrifying. Wooden doors invite you to enter a new room, behind which various sounds can be heard. Someone's bandaged hand is tied heavily to the wall, preventing them from moving the other way, palm clenched into a fist, seemingly trying to get their pain from the blow outward that way. But to his particular surprise, the man's gaze does not express an ounce of pain or self-pity, only a kind of emptiness and coldness, even after the blows he has received on himself. He is addressed, calling him Dear Chu Mu, while at the same time being struck again with a strong blow, but not on his arms, but on some leg, forcing him to endure this unpleasant pain. The blows seem to be mercilessly flying all over his body and on various parts of his skin, this time hitting his cheek, leaving behind a noticeable mark on his face as he holds back a groan of pain. In front of the man is a girl who swings in for another painful and scathing whiplash, while loudly proclaiming that if he dares to run away again. The girl seems to be seething with anger at the behavior of the guy chained to the wall, so she strikes harder than before, saying that next time she will beat him to death. The man seems to be exhausted from his strength, for the blows were so numerous that there is a certain glint of hatred in his eyes at what the girl was now doing to him. The guy, whose clothes are gradually beginning to show traces of blood from the oozing wounds, lowers his head, and the girl is distracted by a loud voice saying that Mr. Sia has arrived at the palace. The girl, noticing Mr. Sia, immediately walks over to him, pressing her hand to her heart and reporting that a boy from the Sia family tried to run away, and she decided to take the liberty of flogging him. That same boy hadn't said a bad word during the whole flogging, enduring all the blows and abuse, looking at Mr. Sia in front of him with a kind of hatred in his gaze. He doesn't seem to be expecting the next move from Mr. Sia. A sharp movement of his hand grabs his head, squeezing and saying that there is no point in escaping from here. The white-haired man continues to hold the other man's head with a strong grip, going on about how he doesn't care what family he was in the past, but he hurt someone he shouldn't have. Mr. Sia shifts his strong grip to his hair, which squeezes at the very roots, stating that the palace has taken it upon themselves to kill him and will not let him live, while the guy looks on hatefully. The man continues that no sooner had he started than someone managed to beat him to it, completely taking away the pleasure of revenge, while a sharp sword with bad intentions appears at the girl's neck. The girl has no time to realize the dire situation she is now in, only to be shocked at Mr. Sia, but understated, as she is suddenly beheaded. Mr. Sia, not reacting in any way to the collapsed body of the girl behind him, still stands by the chained boy with the same steely rock, saying that every life has its price. The man carefully holds the black box with the red ribbon in his hands, continuing that the Yang family gave up their clan's treasure just to massacre the boy, so his life is valuable. The man divulges his biography, that he is from the Chu family of Luochen, and because of his hasty signing of a contract with a spirit pet, the pet betrayed him and simply ran away from him, shamefully abandoning him. The boy, realizing that he had failed in this matter, because his pet had betrayed his master, sank to the ground and froze in that position for a long time, reaching the topic for jokes in Lokeng. The man continues to press on the 15-year-old boy's severe wounds, saying that he could have been hiding behind his father and brother's back, beating a buck, rather than being the scion of a noble family. He continues to humiliate the boy in every possible way, saying that he has lost the patronage of his elders, to which the other angrily exclaims that if he wants to beat him up, let him do so. The man's gaze visibly changes. He has gotten some sort of reaction from this boy that he hasn't said a single word the whole time. So he coldly states that he will straighten him out, but later. The man continues his thoughts, but he doesn't understand why the man dared to sign the contract. But although the man is stupid, he is brave enough, saying that he likes to torture such fools. The man, hearing the boy's interested question, does not hesitate and opens a black box from which purple-colored magic pours out, which is the value of Chumu's life. The strongest magic floods this room with a large ball of purple smoke, showing all the power and strength, and the man states that he is a master of spirit pets. The boy doesn't seem to have expected to see that this particular man would be called a master, he says in surprise, as if he can't believe what he saw before his eyes. Enormous power spreads with speed. The master controls the spirit pets and does anything with them. But there is also a nightmare that is a special creature that fights for humans. However, this nightmare has the frightening power to devour its owner, and if the master's strength or soul is weaker, the spirit will devour it, quickly heading towards Chumun. The man continues to say that to grow, the nightmare needs to devour the soul of hundreds of people as food, and now the nightmare is among the demons. It needs 1,000 souls of people for food. The man finally blurts out that this boy should be proud, for his weak spirit will become the food of such a majestic pet, making the boy tense up and feel fear. The evil spirit pet wastes no time, for it needs such an appetizing food in front of it. It starts to wrap its arms around the lad's neck and twist around his chained body, which doesn't resist. Mr. Sia carefully observes what is about to happen, running through his mind that the contract process will be painful and long. Not everyone will endure. After all, many people simply die on the spot due to lack of air or a weak heart. Chumun feels tears on his cheeks. He already knows what is about to happen to him. The so-called white nightmare seems as if it is familiarizing itself with its food, who it will need to contract with outside, and afterwards, it starts to slowly enter the boy's mouth. Chumun doesn't seem to expect such a strong tug. A large stream fills his body with its heavy smoke, not allowing him to breathe that he is barely holding on from his last strength. The boy's mouth drools uncontrollably. He is like a helpless puppet and can't move. The pet has almost completely penetrated his weakened body. Mr. Sia, as soon as he notices that the white nightmare has completely vanished from the space around him, loudly blurts out the conclusion of the spiritual contract, extending his hand with his magic. The boy feels himself begin to be tormented from the inside out mercilessly after this uttered phrase. He mentally howls in pain, not understanding why exactly he has to endure this. He thinks and screams that he does not want to die so shamefully. After all, is he worthy of such an end? The boy's mouth is open, saliva mixed with blood dripping from it. Chumun is exhausted. The boy's arms really seem to have weakened after such a pressure on his side, for before this torture, there was also a merciless flogging that had knocked all the strength out of the youth's body. The boy's body finally weakened. It was only held on by the arm bindings. Chumun's head slumped down, hiding his face, frozen in horror from the torment he had received. Purple and dark smoke gradually began to emerge from the boy's body, not the same as before the contract, and a couple of people appear nearby, watching from the sidelines. One of those people approached the boy's emaciated body, lifted his head, and opened his closed eyes, saying aloud that Chumun's pupils were dilated as they were during the pain. The girl, after a brief inspection on the boy's condition, extends her hand to his chest, divulging to Mr. Sia that Chumun's heartbeat cannot be felt, his body exhausted. Drawing conclusions after the examination rendered, the girl continues with the obvious that the boy has failed the test, to which the Lord states that the white nightmare will dispose of his body on his own. Mr. Sia seems to be truly saddened that the boy was unable to show off all of his survival skills. After all, he thought that Chumun Yu would be able to surprise the Lord with his endurance. The breathless body of the boy is lying on the cold floor. He was left like a real and unnecessary trash in the middle of the room, not giving him a chance for a happy life, but this is unfair. Mr. Sia, realizing that all his hopes had simply vanished instantly once Chumun failed this ordeal, but a cough was heard from his side. Did the boy really make it? The white-haired man is about to leave this room, finally putting a stop to the boy, but abruptly turns around in his direction, watching Chumun come to his senses. It seems that not only Mr. Sia is surprised by such a revealed picture before him, but also by the wards, exclaiming loudly that he was able to survive, while he wheezes that he has not yet taken what belongs to him. The boy's hair falls down his face. His look changes to one of hatred and seriousness. As he is forced to endure such torment, he states that why would he die in such a humiliating way? Mr. Sia returns to the boy sitting on the floor, looking at him with a look of utter amazement and not understanding that whether Chu Moon had managed to cope with this ordeal after all. It was only unsurprising to hear the follow-up from Mr. Sia's mouth about the boy being taken to Nightmare Island for the moment, followed by his devilish smile. The boy is not even given and time to recover from the agonizing ordeal. At the same moment, a sack is placed on his head, tying his hands behind his back, wondering what the man wants to do to him. Sometime later, Chu Moon starts to hear the sound of raging waves around someplace, the sea wind blowing at him, making him assume that they are leading him towards the sea. In this raging sea, there are many terrifying and dangerous creatures for ordinary people that are just waiting for their prey at the bottom of the sea, watching the wildlife around them. Some time passes and the boy is already on land, still with his hands tied behind him, but without a bag on his head, giving him a chance to look around the area. The boy, having swum the entire way in darkness and fear of what he should expect from Mr. Sia, who is so eager to take revenge on him, squints at the bright light around him, bending down. The boy feels the freshness around him and the blinding, radiant sunshine. He is momentarily surprised and seems to fall out of reality, wondering what this place is. The boy looks around him. In front of him, somewhere on the high ground, is a green monster that is reaching for the huge flower beside him, seemingly wanting to eat. The boy watches the creature from the side, but is distracted by the voice of a man who is already on a boat, sailing away from here and wishing only good luck, which will obviously be needed. The boy, completely free from the ropes on his body that kept him from moving, finally gets up and looks around, wondering and not realizing what this place here is. Somewhere on the mountains in different elevations, rocks, there are different houses which apparently are waiting for only one guest, and it is wandering in the unfamiliar territory Chu Moon. In one of the buildings there is also a man watching him all the way. His eyes glow with a frightening light. He says that it would be better if he did not die because the trial is just beginning. The boy, having climbed up one of the hills, sits down near the cliff with his feet in the air, watching the raging sea below him, seemingly unsure of what to do. The boy looks much fresher than he did before he was imprisoned by Mr. Sia, his wounds almost healed. But he looks at the sea with a puzzled look, for it has already been 3 days on the island. The boy, leaning with his hands on either side of him, turns his head back, gazing into something unpleasant and ugly, thinking that he was able to take in the situation in these days. In the water are many spread out and breathless bodies. He realized that he is in a camp where evil nightmares are raised, and ordinary people are gathered to serve as a repository of nightmares. The boy, realizing the gravity of the situation he has gotten himself into, presses his head to his knees and as if trying to gather himself, for he needs the strength of his soul for his nightmare inside him. The boy is looking out to sea beneath him with something concentrated, at the same time tuning into the fact that he needs to pass a test to become stronger than his own nightmare. The boy is contemplating what kind of test he will need to overcome, looking for all the possible options, as he is distracted by a sudden voice not too far away from him, forcing him to look. The boy really doesn't expect to hear someone's voices nearby, so Chumon rises from his seat and looks out towards the people talking about something. Some petite girl is staring unhappily with her bright red eyes. She is shouting for some people to let go of her who are apparently harassing her. The girl is being held by some guy telling her not to kick, and another man is standing beside her, saying that Brother Joe is very strong for various trials, so why shouldn't she go with him? Chu Moon watches them from afar, realizing that they are another sent away for trials. The majestic Joe towers over the girl with a big rock, addressing her as a chick. The girl looks annoyed, for she has been harassed by men unknown to her, pestering her in every possible way with their vile words and touching, the same man telling the girl to go with him. Fearless, according to his travelers, Joe draws his hand to the chin of the girl, who cannot move because of the strong grip, saying that he will definitely protect her. The man's hand still keeps on the girl's pretty face. He continues to lead his thumb over her lower lip, insisting that it's very scary in this nightmare island. The man persistently continues to run his thumb over her bottom lip, still not leaving the girl's side, continuing to tell her that she should stop acting like the ultimate hussy. The girl, apparently having calmed down and not kicking, falls silent as Joe suddenly finds the right moment and suddenly clenches his teeth on the other man's finger, biting it until it bleeds. The man in no way expected such a provocative and cunning maneuver. It seemed to him that the girl actually obeyed him as she recoils from her, holding onto her aching finger. The girl, already sick of such a circus, blurts out loudly and furiously to his face that she would rather die than ingratiate herself to a man like him. The man's look after hearing the girl's words instantly changes to a furious one, and he frowns, completely irritated by the girl's act, seemingly not going to stand for it. Apparently, the man is not the type that will apologize for his own act. He only gets angrier and starts swinging his fist, saying that she doesn't want to live. The girl clearly doesn't expect that the man is going to hit her with all the force he has, but the other just doesn't have time to do what he intended, getting some rock right in the head. What exactly the man didn't expect was a sudden attack from even an unknown trajectory. He shrieks in palpable pain and feels a large lump grow at the sight of the blow. As expected from the majestic and fearless on Nightmare Island, Joe instantly becomes more furious than before, yelling loudly about who did it and have him show himself immediately, while the majestic Joe starts shouting to the entire island about who did it and have it come out to him quickly. At the same moment, Chu-moon gathers another batch of stones for his attack. The boy's gaze changes to a focused and serious one. He takes aim and wants to do everything perfectly, thinking that it is not worth muddying the ink, and in a fight you have to be first. The boy remembers the girl's words from back then. His hand with the stone inside prepares for an apt toss, saying that he's pretty good with dignity. After a few more moments and seconds for a concentrated shot, the boy lets the solid stone fly at great speed, gazing intently at his own target below. The stone flies with great speed, hitting various elevations with a distinctive sound, but still continues to fly towards Chu-moon's target that he calculated the trajectory so well. The girl is in a shocked state. She settles down on one of the rocks, watching as pebbles began to fly from somewhere, hitting clearly into these fools next to her. The girl opens her mouth in admiration, rolling around in her head about how cool the man who saved her was by preventing her location from being recognized by the number of stones. The majestic Zhou Shengmo receives the numerous stones into his body, his eyes instantly lighting up with a bright white light, revealing all the rage at the moment that had come over him. The man's angry reaction doesn't wait long. He instantly lights up with his usual rage, holding up his fist and yelling something that will make this man regret his actions. A purple light emanates from the man. His underlings smirk contentedly and loudly proclaim that Brother Joe is going to summon his pet, and that guy will definitely be out of luck to escape the scene. The waiting men of the interesting picture are keenly watching the pissed-off Joe as a sound came from somewhere, attracting the attention of everyone present on this island. The majestic Joe, as soon as he heard that sound announcing the gathering, instantly forgets about his idea of revenge, loudly vocalizing that this man is lucky until he catches him. The girl, still also surprised because of what happened just a short while ago, watches as those annoying guys start to move away from her, thinking about finally being saved from them. The girl is really curious, after all, who could dare to stand up against the majestic and fearless Zhou Shengmo, that even looks dangerous looking in some direction. The girl's gaze instantly latches onto the silhouette of some man that is quite high up from her, on a hillock, watching him from the side and trying to see his face. It seems that the rescued girl can look closer to notice a serious young man in the same spot that is looking out something ahead of her, seemingly about to leave. Apparently, it was from the arena of Nightmare Island that the loud signal announcing the gathering was heard, which is quite close to the rest of the people arriving on this island. The large number of people guarding this place loudly exclaimed for all the people here to hurry up if they didn't want to end their lives so shamefully without starting the ordeal. The panting arrived guys who had recently molested the poor girl arrive at the heard signal, looking unhappy at what is happening, feeling pain from the bruises and bumps on their bodies. Zhou Shengmo, feeling all the pain in his body due to the attack from the unknown man, puffs very loudly and looks around unhappily, saying that he will definitely kill whoever did this. The man attracts the attention of the other people with his loud voice to the unknown person, but Chu-moon does not choose to listen to him for long, only looking somewhere in the distance after seeing the chicken leg. Just as Chu-moon said as he looks out ahead of the Nightmare Island arena, the chicken leg, which is indeed in the middle of the place, attracting the attention of not only the boy but also the others. The boy's gaze instantly changes, seeming to realize what is about to happen to the people who are already starting to slowly go insane from the growing hunger, hypnotized. All of the tired people, As soon as they see it in front of them, start talking about food and how they want to eat. One of the others is already drooling down his chin, saying he wants to eat it. The man can't control his urges and desires, so he takes one step towards the chicken leg hanging on something, again saying he wants to eat the chicken leg. The hungry man, and no sooner does he reach his so near target, suddenly something horrifying and frightening happens to all people. The man is instantly massacred. An eerie and frightening atmosphere melts all around. Every person is horrified by what they have just seen in front of them. Some loudly aghast and screaming in fear, holding their mouths and letting out small tears. One of the guards of this arena appears before the terrified people, licking his whip and saying, "That did he let them move. So if you disobey, you will follow him." Each person is horrified by the unfolding picture before them, because all the people following them are clearly fucked up in the head, that they are ready to kill every person here so easily. The frightening masked man smiles contentedly as he points the muzzle of his gun at the people in front of him, saying that the Hunger Games have begun and they can only feed 50 people. The man smiles devilishly. He really is some kind of thug or executioner, saying that he will massacre everyone if no one moves, for the island needs the strong. After a certain amount of time and expectation of people already tuning in for the ordeal, there's a loud sound of gunfire in the sky, announcing the beginning of the bloody and merciless game. The people guarding the place are well above the arena itself, watching as people pounce on the food nearby, some managing to eat buns but only one chicken leg. All the people who can just reach the food start to gorge on it quickly, as suddenly there is a loud voice of Jo Shengmo, who is crying out for everyone to listen to him now. Suddenly, this brazen man appears in front of everyone's eyes, stepping his foot on someone's head and plucking a chicken leg, saying that all this food will be his and no one will dare to resist. The guarding men, still also watching this fight from a quieter spot, discuss Shenmo, who appears to be superior to many in strength, and it seems not everyone here is scum. They say the training started 3 days ago, but the latter has already defeated his younger brother. Only from somewhere a stranger's hand appears and fearlessly snatches a chicken leg from Shenmo's grip. The boy holds the chicken leg tightly in his hands and hears threatening cries behind his back that he should return the leg to its real owner or he will kill him. The boy does not react to such cries. He is unlikely to obey such a man as Shenmo, and the girl who was saved from those guys has been watching all this for a long time. The people in the arena are surprised by such an act on the part of the fearless boy, fussing loudly and saying that he is crazy for daring to steal food from Jo Shengmo himself. Everyone is dumbfounded as they watch the unfolding picture before their eyes, still saying that this guy is clearly fed up with life. And at this moment, Chu Moon is taking a bite of a delicious chicken leg. All the people who are watching all this happening open their mouths in surprise, because he not only dared to steal food from this intimidating guy, but also took a bite on purpose. The masked guards are watching this picture. One of them laughs amusedly at what he has just seen, saying what an interesting kid is here. Dumbfounded by such actions from the confident boy, Jo Shengmo seems ready to ignite a huge and blazing flame in this arena, wondering how the man dared to disobey him publicly. The man is not going to stand like a halt for a long time and do nothing, letting him guide dainty, tasty food with a loud roar to the whole arena, says that he will deal with this guy. A couple of moments later, people appear from somewhere, and they swoop down on Chun Moon with surprising speed. Someone strikes the boy's face directly from his foot, making him tense up. The next blow is not to be expected for a long time. Some man standing in front of the boy strikes his chest with great force, but the boy still holds his foot in his mouth. The girl, who is watching this unpleasant scene not far away from herself, immediately tenses up visibly, and as if to cheer herself up, thinking that this is not allowed, she must help him. After numerous blows to his body and face, the boy is bent in half but is still on his feet, his hand covering his stomach, his body visibly trembling. He asks everyone to stop with a trembling voice. The boy lowers his head and, still trembling, as the girl watches him from the side, wondering if he has a plan. The majestic Jo Shengmo stands beside the trembling boy, the other two boys surrounding him, watching to see what else he will say when they say it's too late for regrets. The boy, still in the center of the attacking men who are ready at any moment, on Joe's orders, to attack him with all the devilish power, raises his finger up and asks for a minute. After waiting for a certain amount of time, everyone is interestedly watching Chu Mun standing in the middle, who seems to have gathered himself and swallows a chicken leg with a loud and characteristic sound. The boy, with great strength, was able to swallow the chicken leg along with the bone, starts stroking his stomach as if nothing had happened, saying that he almost threw up and would have been such a waste. Dumbfounded by the scene and the boy's deed, she looks at him with her hatched and big eyes, as if she doesn't understand whether it's a joke or just a marvelous dream. The majestic Zhou Shengmo only clenches his jaws furiously, his evil eyes devouring this boy, as if trying to burn him with a growing flame. The Nightmare Island's arena guardians watch this picture and even laugh from what they see, talking about how interesting this guy is, that he could even swallow a bone, astonishing everyone around him. One of the masked men watching says that now that the jackpot has been eaten, it's time for the real game. The man concentrates and starts whispering something softly, tuning in. The man, in all his intimidating guise, curls his hand behind his back and places his other hand at his chest, extending 2 fingers upwards, continuing to recite his magic words, raising the atmosphere around him. The violet shimmering light with more of the man's spoken words begins to gather into a sort of peculiar circle, hiding the man's body from the gaze of ordinary eyes. After a certain amount of time, the entire arena of Nightmare Island abruptly begins to be blinded by a bright light, as if a glowing fiery sun were approaching the ground, causing one to squint. There is some kind of blinding flash, a couple of subsequent moments, and instead of the guarding man, there is a furry and fierce creature that appears to be ready to devour everyone. Around the neck of what appears to be a ferocious wolf is a collar with sharp needles. The man is a beast related to the wolf family, a spirit pet in a world of terrifying monsters. The people in this arena begin to visibly panic. Some desperately scream that it is a ferocious wolf. Some begin to visibly sweat and tremble in their bodies, not knowing what to do. The 2 remaining masked guards announce that they have purposely starved the pets so that they will easily attack any living thing they can handle. The man standing next to the ferocious wolf says that this is physical training. Everyone will have to fight them, and at the next training session, there will only be about 50 survivors. A large number of hungry and ferocious wolves open their huge mouths as the masked man continues, for all to enjoy the joy of death. Only the strongest will enter the temple. The weakest and most frightened humans will die one by one, leaving behind only the remains of their limbs. The ferocious wolves are already beginning their long-awaited hunt, swooping down on everyone. The fast-moving ferocious wolf already finds its first victim in the form of a frightened human, who only stands in one place while the wolf opens its maw. The next action of the hungry animal is not worth waiting for long. The ferocious wolf instantly closes its maw, depriving one of those present in this arena of Nightmare Island of his life. Ferocious and hungry for the spiritual power of humans, the wolves gradually begin to approach those huddled in a heap near one spot in the arena. The humans begin to startle and shiver in fear. The people remaining in the arena of Nightmare Island are running away from the ferocious wolves attacking them. Someone simply does not have time, and he is eaten alive by the hungry animal. Someone screams at full force. The pitiful and frightened faces of the people amuse the 3 keepers guarding the arena, who smile and watch the bloody scene from afar, enjoying their torment. The boy, being in full tension, seems to be running in some direction, analyzing by the color of the fur and the size of the fangs of the ferocious wolves their level, thinking that they are 8th. The ferocious wolf chases after the boy, seemingly wanting exactly his flesh and spiritual strength, while the boy ponders the fact that such a healthy and strong ferocious wolf doesn't need to be fought directly head-on. To survive, he just needs to wait until there are exactly 50 people left in the arena. He runs, but suddenly is sharply pushed with his foot right in the chest, knocking him out of his thoughts. The boy can't stay on his feet after such a hard kick and falls straight to the ground as a ferocious wolf comes running up behind him, hearing that he dared to become someone's enemy and will die. Just such an action can only be expected from one person, and that is Zhou Shengmo, who only looks back at the boy who has fallen to the ground, smiling in all 32 teeth. The boy, unable to get up from the ground as quickly as possible and run away from the wolf that has caught up with him, sees the mouth of a ferocious wolf open above him, ready to devour him. But the boy keeps himself in control, tries not to give in to the panic, and dodges at the last moment not to let this hungry creature to deal with him. As the boy scrolls through his head furious expressions towards Zhou Shengmo for doing this to common malcontents, Chu Moon holds onto the alien's mouth with his hands, warding it off. While the boy is holding the ferocious wolf back with his already trembling hands from fatigue and pressure, he notices that it is also the other ferocious wolves that have started to run up to him that are acting slyly. The boy already expects, it seems, only a bad fate, because the strength is gradually leaving his body. Only from somewhere appears a wooden stick, which swings at the monsters with all his might. The savior is the same girl, whom the boy helped even then. The ferocious wolf did not expect such an attack from behind and immediately becomes confused, distracted for a while. The consistent reaction of the ferocious and hungry wolf is quite expected. He, although confused, comes to his senses instantly, looking at the man who dared to disturb him. Suddenly, the ferocious wolf, who instantly becomes angry because of those who distract him from the desired eating of spiritual power, swings a huge paw at the girl with all his might. Not expecting such an onslaught from the ferocious creature, the girl flexes her arms at the very side of her face, realizing that she begins to fly in some opposite direction at a noticeable speed. The girl, as expected, her entire body slams into the wall behind her, leaving behind a noticeable dent while Zhou Shangmo is surprised by Ting Yu's act of helping some guy. The man still stares at the girl in shock as he tries to comprehend why she would do such a thing, but he suddenly realizes that the guy had apparently attacked them back then. The ferocious wolf doesn't disappear anywhere after what he did to the girl distracting him. He growls and with his hungry eyes stares at the boy in front of him that is now alone with him. The boy's look instantly changes to one full of fear, for he sees what has become of the girl and realizes that he must now cope alone, inwardly blurting out that he does not want to die. The man sees the masked men guarding the safe territory somewhere, laughing at what is happening. He hatefully says that he doesn't want to die at the hands of these little people. The boy remembers the very silhouette of Mr. Sia that he hates, that mocks him in every way that exists on this cruel planet. He wants revenge on him. The boy, as if trying to concentrate on his feelings and emotions, on his desires that should save him now, he asks for the power he needs, saying that everyone will pay. The boy, while he tries to awaken his inner white nightmare, temporarily forgets about the reality in which he is now. The jaws of the terrifying monster are already close to the boy's face. The boy, it seems, completely stopped feeling anything. He seems to be in some kind of prostration, forgetting about everything around him, as abruptly with all its power raises in the air fierce wolf. The boy is as if not himself. His eyes are covered with white light, and his body is exactly under the control of his white nightmare that took control of him, getting rid of all the hungry wolves around. The boy's amazing strength causes one of the wolves attacking him to push back with force as soon as another's finger points towards the ferocious wolf, unable to resist. One of the watching guardians of this Nightmare Island arena opens his mouth in astonishment, for the boy had dealt with one of the main ferocious wolves through his strength. The same majestic Zhou Shangmo is watching the whole scene in front of him, as he was one of the first who wanted to kill the boy, but he wonders how he got such strength. The boy does not pay any attention to the large number of stares around him, because everyone, even fierce wolves and people, are only watching him. His cold-blooded expression. The ferocious wolves surround the boy from all sides. It seems that all the pets have gathered around him alone, waiting for the next actions of the guy, who stands in one place, expressing white smoke. No one has the strength to break the sepulchral silence and tense atmosphere with a word. One of the guards of the area shows no emotion, asking to count the number of survivors. One of the island's employees examines the number of survivors, as many are on the ground long ago, bleeding profusely, and as expected, 50 people remain. The man in the black mask distances himself from the rest of the guards, clasping his hands behind his back, thus showing his authority to them, saying to call the ferocious wolves, for the trial is over. The remaining survivors still cannot realize what just happened before their eyes. Chu Mun was on the verge of death, so from where his body begins to flow white mist. The boy is still standing at that place. The guards are discussing this boy with admiration, one of them saying that it seems to be a white nightmare in his body, which was sent by Mr. Sia himself. Standing to the side and still watching with even more hatred, Shenmo angrily exclaims how he got a white nightmare in his body of such a high level, being in the Blue Nightmare camp. A short while later, as the end of the completed test is announced, the boy settles to the floor, holding onto his aching heart in his sternum, inwardly screaming in cutting pain. The boy thinks his pain is coming from his heart, but he realizes that he is completely enveloped by the monster inside of him with its long tongue, not allowing him to move away from it. The boy feels his body begin to weaken with each passing second. Indeed, the white nightmare begins to devour his spiritual strength, leaving him weakened after expending his strength. The boy slowly begins to fall towards the ground, his eyes visibly closing from the poor guy's pent-up helplessness. He can't even keep himself from sitting on the ground as he falls. The very white and magical mist emanating from the boy gradually fades away as the boy fell to the ground from exhaustion, unable to cope with his exhausted state. After a while, the Nightmare Island is quite nice and sunny weather, There are no bloody beatings and only beautiful nature surrounds some of the buildings here. In one of the ancient buildings on the island, the people guarding this island are bowing to someone, gathering their hands in a lock and lowering their head, reporting everything that happened to Chumu. Mr. Sia, towering over the servants and propping his chin up with his hand, interjects that Chumu is capable of activating the power of nightmare, asking what level he is currently at. The masked men still obediently bow their heads to the Lord, indicating that the boy has overused his soul power and forced the white demon to protect him. The man continues to scrutinize the subordinates in front of him, saying that such a thing can only be done once, and because of this, the white demon will soon grow to the 3rd level. The guardians of this island surprisingly exclaim that the soul power is dozens of times greater than that of the 2nd level, that Chu Mu would not be able to handle something like this, and it seems that he would not live for long. Mr. Sia, listening to all the conversations and opinions of his subordinates on the matter, rises from his seat and seriously said that it seems that a new body will have to be found very soon. A large number of mutilated bodies are gathered in one place in a towering mountain, some of them still conscious, screaming from the tearing pain that is so hard to endure. The masked man smiles devilishly, holding his gun in his hand and pointing it at the survivors. He taunts them in every possible way, ordering them to take 50 corpses and throw them into the sea. Some kind of depressing atmosphere is in the arena of Nightmare Island, the remaining survivors feeling either sorry or horrible for being the ones left alive and not someone else. The guarding man only angrily tells them to get a move on, as people immediately split into pairs, or just single-handedly shoulder the body and carry it towards the sea. Most of the survivors see off all the exhausted dead people with sad faces, but only Zhou Shengmo decides to forcefully kick the mutilated bodies, which fall straight into the sea. The majestic Zhou Shengmo watches as his men who have arrived on this island also kick the bodies into the sea, while he resents why they don't just practice. While these men are disposing of the bodies in such an insensitive manner, the girl, unable to contain her emotions, begins to cry because of the many people who have died in this way. She, together with the boy, holds someone's immobilized body. The same tries to reassure her in every possible way that it is not worth crying, and it is better to save your strength because these people will not once again torture them. 3 men who distanced themselves from the rest of the survivors threw several breathless bodies in one pile. Zhou Shengmo himself says that it is better to leave them here. The monsters will eat the bodies. The girl and the boy, having reached the seashore, are still holding someone's body in their hands, suggesting that they throw it away somehow, as if it would count for a seaworthy funeral. The boy, having gathered his strength and started his countdown, thanks to which he and the girl were able to throw the body as far away as possible, watch as there is a splash in the sea. Some time passes, and some of the survivors, attracting the attention of the watchmen, report that all the bodies have been removed, to which the masked men watching nod. One watchman notices a girl in front of him, telling her to look at herself. Why is she so sad? He scoffs that this is not a game of mother-daughter, and she is alive thanks to others. Suddenly a man in a black mask and with a long beard appears, telling everyone to calm down, and from tomorrow they can move freely around the island to find pets. The man continues his speech about the spirit pets, that afterward it will be possible to sign a spirit contract and train them on this island, because there will be a duel in 3 months. It is also about the rest of the survivors, that if they don't pass the test, they will just be thrown into the sea to the sharks, and none of them should ignore the nightmare in the human body. The crowd of survivors is visibly tense, sensing something that will soon be very hard and not sweet, because they need to increase their soul power to stay alive and not become fodder. The man continues that the remaining ones should go home and rejoice that they have survived. For tomorrow there will be a new challenge. He adds that the inner part of the island is not worth going to. Nightmare Island is covered with sunny and pleasant weather, illuminating the entire area and the many shabby houses with its blinding light, only adding to the good mood. The boy, being in a green area where no one should disturb him, holds onto his back and realizes that he has hurt it well, so he needs to treat it soon so that it doesn't pus. The boy, holding onto a nearby tree to keep his recently poor balance, suddenly receives a large amount of water from someone in his back. Unexpectedly, Zhou Shengmo's gang appears behind the boy along with him too. They smirk, making fun of him in every way possible for accidentally dousing him, completely miscalculating their actions. Zhou Shengmo enters the conversation and continues to say how lucky he was not to have been killed by the ferocious wolves back then, apparently thanks to his kick, because he was the one who caused the white nightmare. The boy, ignoring the expressions of the men, turns away from them, moving in his own direction as they decide to leave this place, telling the boy to wait for his death. The boy, without uttering a single word back to them, only stands gloomily in one place until this pestering gang of Zhou Shengmo finally leaves this place, leaving him alone. The boy Chu Mu suddenly changes in his face, gradually feeling hatred accumulating in his body in a tight knot. He promises himself to deal with Zhou Shengmo himself. There is no one in the lonely house standing on the terrain, except for the boy, who is hiding in one of the rooms away from strangers and prying eyes, making all sorts of sounds of unpleasant pain. The boy, being in the same empty room, sits on his bed and squirms in his face from the pain felt on his back, his body shaking slightly. He grunts from not being able to reach. The boy doesn't pay any attention to his surroundings. He is just engrossed in his wounds, as a girl suddenly appears, saying embarrassedly that she came to help him. The boy Chumu does not expect that someone will burst into his room, being frightened and turning away from her, because what is she doing here? To which the girl embarrassedly says that they live together. Apparently, these two are now roommates. They will have to see each other every day. His gaze changes to pensive, as if Chu Moon is thinking about something passionately. The girl is holding a jar of ointment in her hand, approaching him, while Chu is thinking about the fact that there are only 3 months left and need to be serious. She seems weak to him, but suddenly she did not reveal the cards. The man, still realizing that he can't handle his back wounds by himself, lets the girl do everything by herself. She starts using the ointment while getting to know him. The girl looks shy and embarrassed, not quite sure of her actions. She tries to carefully apply ointment to the large wounds on the other man's back and brings up the subject of the beach, thanking him for his help. The boy remains with a cool face at such words. He seems to be thinking about the future and what trials he will have to endure, telling her that he just chased away the flies and they are even. The girl, finishing treating someone else's back, presses her knees to her chest, telling her that her blue nightmare is growing fast and she's afraid that her soul powers won't be enough and it might consume her soul. The boy, with his body already bandaged, tells her seriously to work hard if she doesn't want to die, because all the test subjects have nightmares around level 2 and need to train. The boy ponders that if the soul power is not increased, the donor will be eaten alive because his soul is not enough to support the nightmare. So Chumun needs to put in the effort. The boy turned away from the girl who is on the outside analyzing someone else's behavior out loud, saying that Chumun doesn't seem to be worried at all. Is he really that much confident? The girl presses her hand to her chest and starts to give her suggestion that they should find their pets as soon as possible, because if one gets a defective pet, it will be difficult to get into the top 10. She goes on to tell him of her plans, that she's going to go in search of her spirit pet, to which the boy briefly wishes her luck, and she suggests that they team up. The boy, hearing of this proposal, turns to face the girl and tells her to go alone, for she does not want to live with a random person, for she will meet a good pet. The girl, getting visibly nervous about this conversation, says that if people don't cooperate, how will they be able to defeat the spirit pet and capture it? It's hard for her alone. The boy states that if they don't have an advantage physically, they will have to cooperate with others, and yes, no one on the team will compete for a good pet. The boy continues that there will be casualties in team rivalries, so it's better to go it alone, but the girl insists on her own, continuing that he's one of the good people here. The girl visibly hesitates in front of Chumun. She clutches her fingers awkwardly and shuffles from foot to foot, exclaiming that they can cooperate after all. The next trial will be more difficult. The girl, looking with her large and beaming eyes, feels extremely awkward since she's been begging the boy so hard to cooperate, saying that it wouldn't hurt to help each other. The boy, despite all the girl's attempts to make some kind of contact with him to cooperate, he just coldly refuses her offer, to which she asks why. The boy's face instantly changes to a detached one, as if he is trying to show the danger coming from himself, saying that he can't be trusted either, which applies to her. The boy, turning away from the girl in the opposite direction, says that good people are the most worthless here, so he can't promise that he'll help next time. He states that when the day of battle comes, he will not be merciful to her, thanking her for the bandage and advising the girl to become stronger so she doesn't have to rely on the others for help, wishing her luck. The girl can't say a single word. It's as if she's absorbing all the information the boy just told her, admiringly going over in her head the words about getting stronger. Changing location, something happens in the green and dense forests, where the atmosphere is eerie and oppressive, as if something terrible is happening here, not visible to the eyes of ordinary people. It seems that in this frightening forest, filled with many mysteries and different creatures, someone is moving around, stepping with his feet on the tall green grass, as if hunting someone else. Suddenly, a huge orange snake appears and towers over Zhou Shengmo, beginning to hiss with its long tongue, and the latter wants to see if the snake is a suitable spiritual pet. A Shenmo's subordinate says that he can give it to them at any moment, as Chumun suddenly appears, who, not paying attention to anyone around him, simply walks past, catching his shoulder. The blue-haired man, not expecting to meet the boy together at this very place, instantly gets angry, because the boy hit him with his shoulder, saying that Moon was blind and couldn't see anything. The man whose pride had just been hurt reports that Moon went towards the inner part of the island, wondering why he was going there, as the manager had said it was a death zone. At such information, the majestic Zhou Shengmo only smiles slyly, seemingly making his guess that the boy is completely desperate and looking for a suitable place to die. The boy, moving through the devastated part of the island all alone, does not notice anyone around him or behind him, looking around because the atmosphere here has noticeably changed to an eerie one. The boy, stopping in the middle of the place as if puzzled by something from what he has seen, feels that somewhere not far from him something terrible and dangerous for human life is happening. To the unsurprising event, the boy is not going to retreat from his confident decision, although it is extremely dangerous. But he must definitely try. He is in dire need of strength. After a while, it seems, having gathered his thoughts and having made a confident decision, the boy makes his step, followed by the rest, already clear and purposeful. To great surprise, but the atmosphere that was originally at the inner part of the island is eerie, but inside is so bright and light that it seems unreal. Next to the lake sits some caterpillar. Around the bustling body of water are many green plants and trees that bloom, spreading their fruit into the ground, and suddenly, a dragonfly starts flying over the water, buzzing loudly. The dragonfly calmly heads on its way, enjoying the nature around it, feeling completely free as it literally sees the shadow of some large fish below it, freezing in fear. As expected, at the same instant, some white and gold fish jumps out of the water, hungry and deciding to eat the insect flying above the water at such an opportune moment. Indeed, as soon as the fish has grabbed the dragonfly, suddenly the beak of a large bird appears from somewhere, which also seems to have waited for the moment and grabbed a bigger catch in the form of a fish. The green bird, which is the attribute of wings, is about to fly upwards with its prey. It is a spiritual pet of the servant rank, the 4th level, which is quite strong. The boy has been watching the scene in front of him for a long time. He even hides behind large bushes. He has green grass on his head, so as not to attract the attention of such a bird. The boy seems to be waiting for the right moment for his ruse. He has set it all up long ago, watching the bird from the beginning, and after waiting, he suddenly cuts the tight rope into 2 pieces. Some large structure, designed for the size of the green bird, drops straight into the water at the same moment, catching in a clear trajectory the body of the green bird, which is not expecting this ruse. The level 4 green bird starts to kick visibly, trying to flap its large wings to escape from this construct. It makes loud noises, seemingly due to fear. The boy, who had only counted on such a successful outcome, comes out of his camouflage position, walking with steady steps towards the still kicking green bird. The boy stops at the shore near the body of water to get a closer look at the green bird captured high up in a tree somewhere, thinking that he will easily win thanks to it. The green bird is still looking shocked at what has just been done to it and how cleverly it has been trapped. But the boy stretches out his hand in its direction, and a golden circle appears. The boy is confident in his movements, as if it's not the first time he's done this, though not much experience, but he accomplishes what he intended, loudly proclaiming the capture of the 4th spiritual contract. The green bird seems to begin to realize that it has just gotten itself into a situation that is inevitable for it, beginning to make loud sounds of help as a golden circle begins to appear around it. At such an action on the boy's part, she begins to flap her large wings in huge streams of wind, but Chu Moon is still standing still as well, gaining the blue bird skill in the form of a flurry. After a certain amount of time, the green bird calms down, still also feeling the golden magic ring on its neck, and the one thinks that a little bit in the contract with her will be successful. The boy seems to already taste his victory, even clenching his palm into a fist from hoping for only the best, not expecting the barrage to be so strong that it would be even easier to win. The boy, focusing on the contract with his new spirit pet, doesn't observe at all what's going on around him as a caterpillar appears from somewhere, hitting him in the face. The boy even gets some sort of mark imprinted on his forehead because of the caterpillar, and he angrily blurts out, holding it in his hand, what the hell it was eating that was so disassembling, starting to get a little angry. The caterpillar seems really unhappy with such expressions from the boy's side. She seems to have realized everything clearly, and her eyes became red from the anger rolling up her body. The caterpillar, not intending to tolerate such words in its direction, suddenly releases its own web, which the boy did not expect. At the same moment, the boy's eyes begin to see nothing. Half of his face is completely covered in this white and sticky web, blocking visibility and distracting him from his contract. The boy, starting to panic a bit about being so distracted, tries to remove this white web from his eyes with his free hand, so he can instantly get on with continuing his contract. The boy realizes that if he does not infuse his own soul power, the soul ring will be instantly destroyed, which is what Chu-moon does not want the most right now, trying to hold his hand. The boy begins to notice that the ring on his hand and the same ring on the green bird's neck begin to visibly crack and go out, confirming that the contract is about to end. After a while, even the branch of the tree that holds the boy's device begins to crack gradually, for the bird does not remain immobile, it acts. The boy begins to notice that the green bird of the fourth rank only continues to rage, continuing to persistently flap its wings and break free, spoiling Munya's plan. After a few quick moments, the boy suddenly pushes himself off the ground, staying in the air for a couple seconds and screaming in surprise, as he didn't think his plan would be ruined so quickly. The boy looks at his hand in shock, as the golden ring is already just shattered in the air, completely dissolving the contract with the spirit pet before it could be fully completed. The green bird, having waited for the long-awaited moment of its own freedom, breaks free from the tight ropes, also getting rid of the golden ring around its neck, which it had been trying so hard to achieve. The boy, settling on the ground, covers his face from the strong flow of wind, which is created by the great flapping of the wings of the green bird, which, having freed itself, flies high up. The boy, completely out of breath for these past few minutes, feels the sweat running down his face a bit. He thinks that it is only worth it for the bird to break free. There is no contract to be made with it. The boy, engrossed in his annoying thoughts of not having a successful spiritual contract this time, sees the caterpillar swooping down to give a yank from Chu-moon, angering him more. It doesn't take much effort for the boy to catch even so small an insect in the form of a caterpillar. Voice how that one is going to compensate him for such a loss in the form of a bird. The boy, naturally receiving no answer from the insect, raises it up a little to be level with his face, and asks the caterpillar what he is doing and why. The caterpillar, realizing that it cannot get out of the boy's grip, emits a soft squeak, which is only capable of, to which he replies that she did not even think of pretending to be nice to him. At such words, the caterpillar does not hold back her tears, stopping any kind of kicking in other people's hands to try to get free, to which the boy grudgingly blurted out why she was crying. The boy, engrossed in a conversation with this vengeful insect, hears some loud and fast stomping behind him, and such as if the ground begins to shake under such weight. The boy does not have time to realize the moment when some huge monster starts approaching him, changing its expression to puzzled and serious. Some part of the body of this creature looks quite bright, colored in blue and pink colors. Apparently, it is someone's long tail, which has a great power in it. The boy still can't understand who it is that has disturbed his showdown with the caterpillar in such a huge way, who can create such a huge dust after his movements without trying to create them. The boy does turn around to look at the troublemaker of the place as his gaze changes to one of surprise at what he sees in front of him. The boy manages to get to his feet, dumbfounded at the sheer size of the giant monster named Mandy that has stopped in front of the boy, raising its head and tail high. Apparently, this giant creature has no intention to stay here with calm purposes. He starts to fuss after a while, with his huge tail demolishing everything around him. This giant monster stops to let out loud roaring sounds, and the boy takes off running as far away as possible, because this pet is level 9, which is very dangerous. The boy is still cautious in his actions. He thinks about why Mandy is doing this, because this, although a giant creature, has the most good-natured character compared to the others. The boy, having run far enough away to watch what Mandy is doing now, doesn't understand why the creature has gone off the rails. All thoughts with questions about the stranger's behavior seem to dissipate instantly as the boy begins to notice something orange on the tip of Mandy's tail that keeps him on his toes. The boy squints and notices that it seems to be a firefox, so skittish and tiny, clinging with his front paws to the tip of Mandy's raging tail, keeping pace. The good-natured spirit pet named Mandy howls in displeasure, twisting his tail in every possible way, and the boy doesn't understand how this little fox manages to fight Mandy so bravely. It seems the boy only has time to realize at the last moment what Mandy is just about to do. So he dodges to the side as soon as someone else's tail comes down, causing the fox to strike. The domestic spirit pet bangs its tiny body against the tree behind it pretty well, but the fox's blue eyes show that its temperament is that of a blue-eyed fox, surprising Munya. The boy makes guesses as to who the tiny fox really is and seems to realize that the one is a half-breed, but after all, it is a rare spirit creature, and yes, he is facing Mandy's monster, which is great. The boy is watching this skirmish between the two spirit pets from the side. He is thinking about how to help the pet fox because it is clearly not easy for him to fight. Suddenly, the boy's gaze falls on a caterpillar stuck to his clothes. He immediately takes it in his hands, and the insect looks questioningly at Chu Mun, because what is he up to now? The boy, without making the insect wait long, holds it out towards the altercation, where Mandy's giant monster begins to slowly approach the fox cub, seemingly clamping it to a tree. The boy, with a firm grip on this insect that had just recently interfered with him during a contract, sternly tells him to spit in its eye, or else he'll just throw it out into its jaws. The caterpillar is visibly shaken by the fear that is building up, because the boy in all seriousness will be able to throw this insect right into the jaws of the giant Mandy without letting a tear escape. A few moments pass, and they have no time at all. Every minute counts. Because Mandy will quickly enough dispose of the defenseless fox, the caterpillar gathers his courage, raising his eyes. Not long enough to wait for the caterpillar's next move, she does what the boy told her to do. She launches her own web right into Mandy's face. The giant creature named Mandy does not expect such an attack from those watching. He begins to growl unhappily and rubs his eyes with his paws, which can't see anything because of the web. The boy, wasting no time in taking the pet into his own hands while Mandy tries to see anything at all, ponders that he needs a contract with him. The boy, still pondering his cunning plan to contract the spirit pet, speeds up in his stride to get away from the place, imagining the good fortune he has gotten. The boy quietly quickens his own stride to get to a safe place away from all sorts of angry creatures, not expecting the fox to start scratching his arm. The boy seems to have had enough today, having failed to make a contract with the green bird the first time, so he takes it out on the fox, saying that if he disobeys him, he'll give him to Mandy. The spirit pet doesn't seem to be confused or bothered by anything. He still continues his behavior, waving his sharp claws and growling as if he wants to be let loose. The boy seems to be distracted from his showdown with the playful and rather aggressive fox that he is looking somewhere to the side, noticing the beautiful multicolored tail, wondering and gaping at the art. The boy also turns in the direction the fox is reaching for with his paws, and it turns out to be the Fengluan flower on the tail of a giant creature named Mandy. The boy doesn't seem to be surprised by this reaction of the playful fox because he is always small and active, but Moon says that he is stupid because he doesn't need this flower. Just when the boy is distracted for a couple of moments, the fox immediately disappears from his hands, bursting out with great speed, causing Chu Moon to open his eyes dumbfoundedly and marvel at such a thing. The boy turns around to see which direction the fox ran at such a high speed, shouting in his wake that he is a stupid fox because he is talking, but the fox is not listening. The fox is running towards Mandy's giant monster. He is confident and fast enough that the boy has to do his best to catch up with this tiny creature. As the boy says that this mutant fox is his only option to level up among the other creatures, the fox leaps towards Mandy, who is resting in the bright sunshine. The fox is still galloping with all its speed, unchanged in its confident and cunning gaze, paws pointing only forward, seemingly already reaching its desired goal. The giant monster named Mandy is still lying on the ground, continuing to get rid of the sticky spider web on his face, which does not want to get off his face, irritating him more. The boy freezes in a kind of readable horror in his eyes, as if noticing someone's last seconds of precious life, seeming to realize that the fox has made a mistake and is in a hurry. Engrossed in his occupation of getting rid of the cobwebs on his muzzle, the giant creature Mandy is distracted, momentarily clinging with his huge and dark eyes to someone in front of him. The giant Mandy's eyes reflect that same spry and cocky fox cub using his magical and spiritual powers, extending a paw with sharp claws forward aiming. The boy can't seem to catch up to the spirit pet, who has already jumped so high that he uses his own power, when Mandy's monster, just as the boy thinks, gathers strength. The boy runs with all the speed he possesses and can, even stretching his arm forward as if he could reach the fox and help, angry at him for his foolish indiscretion. Only the spirit pet appears to be beginning to sense some danger from the creature, halting in its movements as it watches Mandy's mouth open. The fox cub freezes in place, and after a couple of moments, strong and terrifying magic erupts from the giant monster Mandy's huge mouth, burning everything in its path, turning it to ash. Mandy's giant monster rests its paws on the ground, probably suggesting that the brisk fox had long ago left this world, burning right where the trail left off. The boy runs up to the spot where the magical power of Mandy's giant monster had just been inflicted, realizing he didn't have time to save his pet spirit pet, losing all hope. The boy, already realizing that it's all over and he'll have to find a new spirit pet, hears a fox-like sound coming from somewhere, attracting Chumun's attention. The fox, it turns out, is not so stupid and naive, because the boy thought he had said goodbye to his life with his hasty act. But fortunately, he is alive and jumps on Mandy again. The boy again feels hope for his own salvation, and that of the fox too, and looks joyfully at his red-haired friend and assumes that he has used the rock as a stepping stone. The boy watches the fox bouncing on the very steps that keep him still alive and able to dodge the attacks of Mandy's giant monster no other way. He watches as the fox cleverly gets closer and closer to the very flower that the redhead likes, and the boy runs as fast as he can to use the web while the fox takes the flower. The boy quickens his stride, moving purposefully toward the fox that is so enthusiastically playing with the flower he likes. But Mandy's giant monster notices the boy's movements. The foxy pet continues to play with the flower, not paying attention to anything around him, and the boy realizes that Mandy is getting angry. The boy, trying to think quickly about what he should do now, what action to take, because time is passing very quickly, he shouts for the fox to dodge, but he doesn't seem to hear. At the same time, while the fox continues to admire the beautiful flower in front of him, the giant monster named Mandy is already starting to get visibly angry. It seems to be seconds away from exploding. The boy, trying not to waste any time because every second counts now and must act as quickly as possible, otherwise Chumun will be left without a spirit pet, immediately jumps up. The boy seems to be in the air for a very long time, hands reaching towards the fox sitting in the same place, which does not look at anything around except the flower, acting as fast as possible. A couple more significant seconds, and the boy reaches the fox cub, grabbing it in his strong grip and turning in the opposite direction of Mandy's giant monster as fast as possible. The giant monster named Mandy's gaze visibly changes to a devilish one, full of anger and desire for revenge on all those who have been tormenting him for the last while, smiling a wide grin. The boy speeds up as fast as he can, trying to get away from the giant monster as fast as he can, because there are only seconds left to foolishly end his life. A few seconds more, as the supposed event that the boy had been thinking about only a short while ago occurs. Lightning spreads around Mandy over a great distance. From the vast, slumbering and intimidating forest, a bright flash occurs, illuminating the verdant terrain with its blinding brightness, seeming to attract the attention of any person or creature. Once the creature named Mandy has used up its magical power and calms down, it begins to quickly look around in all directions, trying to see if it has gotten rid of the two. The creature is breathing fast from its recent rage, for even back then, Mandy didn't expect an attack from the fox's spirit pet and the human that happens to be in company with it as well. Mandy seems to realize after a few more looks around her that no one is around, and it is unlikely that anyone else would dare to disturb such a dangerous pet, so it becomes cute. From scary and menacing, dangerous to the lives of humans and other spirit pets, Mandy changes to a good-natured creature, going the way he needs to go, singing along to the songs. At the very spot where the feud between the fox cub and the creature named Mandy recently took place, a withered flower is left behind, which the fox chased so much that he almost ended his life. Watching this whole scene from the sidelines, the fox boy's spirit pet begins to howl from the mounting fear he is now beginning to feel, visibly trembling in his tiny body. The boy and the fox cub crawl out from under some sort of shelter that the latter discovered at the very last moment to hide, saying that they would have turned to ash if not for the quick reaction. The fox, much to his surprise, seemed less affectionate and clingy, but judging by the fact that this pet was very frightened by what he saw, he instantly clung to the sturdy body, coming to his senses. As soon as the boy takes out a petal of the flower hidden in his hand, which the fox is crazy about, he immediately changes his face. The boy is pleased with his work, because he was able to grab not only the enthusiastic fox, but even a petal of his favorite flower, pulling closer to his red-haired friend, attracting attention. The fox-like spirit pet seems to thank the boy for his so generous gift of treats to his red-haired friend with a single glance, clawing at the petal with his claws. The red-haired spirit pet, As soon as it thanked the boy for the gift, immediately begins to devour this petal, unexpectedly for Chumun, sinking its sharp fangs into his finger, causing him to shriek. Indeed, this petal is quite small and hard to eat, so the fox swallows it with great speed, eventually swallowing it noisily and waiting for a follow-up reaction. After some amount of time, nothing breaks the sepulchral silence. The boy carefully observes what is about to happen to the fox cub, as suddenly a bright glare is seen. This bright light begins to move from its position onto the tiny spirit pet's body, starting at the very tip of its tail, curling around it in a golden spiral, drawing attention. The boy watches in admiration as the picture emerges right before his eyes, which only confirms that the boy did not try in vain for today and saved the fox cub. The boy actually settles his knees to the floor, so surprised at how the fox cub is dyed a completely different color of its own fur, realizing that it is a double mutation. The spirit pet starts to rise up straight up in the air, and some sort of bluish ball forms around its body, with crystalline water around it as well, changing the coloring of its face to blue. The bluish fox steps its paws on the ground, water continues to form around it, and the boy thinks that the moonlight fox has become a high-ranking pet here. After a while, as soon as it turned from a fire fox to a moonlight fox, the boy draws his hand, around which a golden and bright ring glows, attracting the fox's attention. The boy sits down on one knee to be on the same level with his spirit pet, telling him to sign a contract together to become stronger. Indeed, this boy clearly inspires any sort of trust towards the moonlight fox, for he literally risked his own life to save this spirit pet out of sheer kindness. The moonlight fox, without even wasting much time in thinking about it, raises his tiny paw, watching with fascination as the color of the ring on the boy's hand changes to blue. After a brief contact between the spirit pet's paw and the boy's fingers, some sort of reaction begins to form around their bodies, casting a blue light around their touching palms. Indeed, the boy spent a fair amount of energy searching for some spirit pet, and to his great fortune, he managed to create a fourth spirit contract, naming it Mo Ye. After a while, just as the boy started to approach an area that is full of different people here, Chumun hears a loud and mocking laughter from a blue-haired guy that points his finger. The boy walks in his own direction, doesn't touch anyone, and frowns at all the gathered people around him that are also laughing loudly and saying when he became a noble lady. The boy turns in the other direction he wants to go, still not answering anything to these people who are talking about catching a girl's pet that will make people laugh out loud. Behind the rest of the people around the boy stands the majestic Zhou Shengmo, who looks with a confident look, smiling slyly, that he seems to have a good catch of the pet. The boy casts his cold gaze over this particular person, who interests him more than the others, for Zhou Shengmo is his hated enemy who must be won. A familiar girl appears from somewhere, striding straight towards the boy.